All right, my friends, I'm so excited to welcome back Nicola Brown. This is a part two interview. And I'm really excited about this because Nicola got a lot of great response from the part one of her interview, which I am going to post in the video description, maybe in the pinned comments. I'll put the link to part one somewhere below. But just know that Nicola was on, gosh, 6 months ago. Was that right? Maybe
Yeah, maybe
more,
a bit longer. Yeah.
maybe
Mm.
longer. 6 months to a year ago, and we chatted about how she was doing post-op. So she had surgery, and I'll let Nicola tell you more, but she had a pretty major surgery for a prolapse and various issues that she dealt with. Again, I'll let her tell you. But she was healing from that, and there were some ups and downs, some highs and lows we were dealing with, and she was really honest and provided candid, real talk about how she was doing. And now we have an update. And so I'm so excited to welcome you. Please, Nicola, share maybe about what surgery you had to refresh people's memory and
Hmm.
how you're doing today.
Yeah, hi. Kia ora. Thank you for having me again. It's really nice to be able to talk about this. Almost 18 months ago now, had a hysterectomy and front and back wall repair because I had three prolapses. It's funny, like when you say refresh our memories, I'm like, okay, refresh my own memory, which is a good thing, right? Like it's just definitely not as preoccupying as it used to be. I'm like, what surgery did I have? Which is absolutely not how I felt the last time we did this recording. So I had, yeah, cystocele and rectocele repair and the hysterectomy because of the uterine prolapse. But I also, just to make things more fun, have a chronic pain condition too, which is pudendal neuralgia. And I thought I was one of the only people in the world that had that kind of combo of symptoms. But I found out after the first interview aired that I am absolutely not the only person in the world because so many other people contacted me and said, I've got all of these things, including the neuralgia too, which is really interesting and is sad, but sort of validating to know that you're not alone. And that's what people said in their emails. It's so nice to know that I'm not alone, which is why I'm really happy to talk about this. So that was almost 18 months ago. It was really um, difficult to find. I mean, I'd been sort of dealing with the neuralgia and the prolapses for 2 years. Well, actually, one of the prolapses I've had for 14 years, but it hadn't caused me any trouble. But I've been dealing with them sort of more acutely and the neuralgia for 2 years before I made the decision to have surgery. And I tried, I think, everything that was available to me up until that point. And I have the most, I don't know, maybe the world's largest collection of useless pessaries, useless to me because none of them worked for more than a few weeks, if that, for me. But that's partly because I also have an avulsion. So they really couldn't be held inside. And even a cube, which, has suction, was causing me too much pain because of the neuralgia. So I feel like I'm like a world expert on all the pessary shapes and sizes and types, having had to try them all. I've done a load of pelvic floor physiotherapy, really diligent about doing my stretches and my exercises. I'd made a heap of modifications to my lifestyle, most of which I've maintained, and they've actually proven to be really useful, both immediately before and since the surgery. And I've, continued to learn, obviously, as we do about our bodies. Learned a lot of new stuff in the last year. So I feel like I am in a different place to, as you'd hope, to where I was a year ago. The It took me a full 6 months to feel like I recovered physically from the surgery, which is absolutely nothing like what I'd been told to expect. And I think that surgeons have really good intentions with what they say. And my experience was that it took, I don't know, 20 times longer than I'd been told by my surgeon to expect. But I kind of was cued into that too because of conversations I've seen in Facebook groups that I'm in where people have said healing takes way longer than you think. It actually took me 6 months to feel human again, to get energy back and to feel like I was sort of free, even to do things like just to pick something up off the ground becomes really difficult after those surgeries, really difficult. So you kind of adjust your whole way of bending down, which we do all the time. And so to actually start to do things without having to consciously think about them took me 6 months. And I think it took me 8 months in total from the surgery to feel confident that the repairs had worked. I kept thinking that they hadn't because I'd get symptoms back. And now I've realized, and this won't be any surprise to you, Bree, now I've realized that when that happens, it's usually that I'm under a heap of stress. And that's where my body's feeling it. Like one of the pelvic floor physios said to me, your pelvic floor is your body's first responder in terms of, how you, for a lot of us, it's where we really feel a lot. And that includes stress, obviously. And yeah, it's taken me two major kind of what feel like setbacks to realize, oh, actually, this is what happens. Like the symptoms just get way worse again. And I've actually both times had to seek medical help to get reassurance that everything's okay. Yeah. But one of those times was actually after the first interview. The first interview changed my life when it aired because a person who is a friend of mine who seems to pop up in my life at key times. In fact, she's the person that introduced me to my wife. And we're not in close communication now, but we are still in each other's orbits. She watched the interview that we did on when I posted it on my Facebook page. And then she sent me quite a long message and she said, oh, I've just watched your interview. I really want you to talk to my sister because she lives in Brisbane. She's had the exact same combination of things as you, including the same neuralgia. And she's had surgery. And she's actually also been seeing a physio in Brisbane who specializes in that kind of neuralgia. And so I sort of toyed with the idea for quite a while. I got in contact with the sister and we had a good conversation. And then she said, look, you should contact this guy. He's really passionate about helping people with this neuralgia. And he spoke to me by phone and he was really trying to get me to get treatment locally. He wasn't pushing for me to go and see him. He was saying, find a physio you can work with in Dunedin, actually a sports physio, musculoskeletal specialist, because I can talk them through what I do with people. You don't have to travel. But I couldn't find anyone locally. I did try. And so I ended up going to Brisbane for 2 weeks and seeing him for treatment. Saw him 4 times and followed this protocol that he gave me. And I still follow it now. That was August last year. So I've got half an hour of exercises to do pretty much every morning. I'm so sick of them, I have to be honest. And they do have some adaptations and progressions, but the basics are still the same. But I still do them. And it works. And if I back off them, it's sort of the pain flares up again. But it has got me 50% better with the neuralgia. And given how debilitating it was before, 50% better is a lot better. And while I was in Brisbane, the day that I arrived, I thought, oh, there's a really amazing pelvic floor physio here. I've heard of her, and we've had communication online too, because as you know, I seek out information all over the show, and I kind of I'm not shy at getting in touch with people and asking for help. And I thought, I guess there's no chance she'd be able to see me. I didn't give her any warning that I'm here. And I got in contact and she said, oh, come in at 7. I'll see you at 7 in the morning, which was amazing. So I came in and saw her one morning at 7 in Brisbane. And yeah, she was so great because this was when I was really worried that the prolapses were back, or one of them at least, I thought. I thought the bladder prolapse was back. And she said, no, this is beautiful surgery, amazing surgery. Who was your surgeon? Like, I need to know who it was. And I was so reassured by that. And she was just like, just get on and live your life. Like, just get on with it, you know? And I realized that what had happened is that this Facebook groups where people are really well-intentioned, but there's so much negativity in some of them. And not yours. I don't find that in yours. I think yours is really well moderated, but there's some that, especially some surgery ones where, or actually even ones about prolapse, where people have very weighty opinions about surgery and come down really hard on people who, especially, you know, and I don't think you should have surgery as a first resort. I think it should be when you've tried lots of other things. So I'm definitely not advocating for it as a, you know, first decision, the first decision that you'd choose. But there's so many people that are like, surgery won't work, it doesn't last, blah, blah, blah. And yes, there's a lot of people for whom it does have limitations or it has complications. But then there's lots of surgeries that's true of, right? Like even a knee replacement. My wife's had a knee replacement. She's only expecting it to last 10 years. She's got to 11 now. But it's not going to last forever. And I decided before I had the surgery, I decided, okay, quality of life wise, I've done everything I can. This is the only thing I haven't tried. I might as well give this a shot. But now I still find that if I look at those groups now when I'm worried the symptoms are coming back, it just all kind of,
Yeah.
I still catastrophize about, oh my God, this is my surgery failing, etc. So it's just really interesting the power that those kind of environments can have. So there's kind of a word of caution I have is people in there have their own hefty opinions, but that's just their opinions. And it's probably people that are still having a lot of trouble that hang out in those groups quite a lot, I suppose. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I've realized that that is not a good thing for me to do when I feel like the symptoms are problematic. I just need to stay away from all of that and just remind myself that, yeah, actually, the surgeon that I had, I chose him. You know, I didn't get to choose him. He chose me. I saw multiple surgeons and most of them wouldn't operate on me because of the pain. They didn't want to make the chronic pain worse, which I'm grateful for. But he was one that does it so much that he was more confident. And so I just have to trust that he knew what he was doing. He did the best he could. I'm doing the best I can every day to look after myself now. And so it's, yeah, I do feel like I'm a lot further ahead than I was when we did the last interview.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to highlight, I mean, just so many things there. I mean, one thing to highlight is I'll just repeat what you already said, which is that neither one of us are promoting surgery as a first line of defense. Nicola went through so much to get to the decision of having the surgery. And for you, that was the decision you needed to make. And so I mean, I totally, although I am a proponent definitely of conservative methods first, that's why I have my online, my online programs that I share with the world. However, in some cases, it's a really great option. And thank goodness it's an option for people to turn to. And so I want to highlight that neither one of us are saying it should be a first line of defense, but for you, it was necessary. And also highlight that these support groups can be a wonderful thing. And sometimes they can turn into really not good places, really places that will really drag you down, and where complaining is really the main thing you're seeing in negativity. And of course, we want reality. We need reality checks. We don't always need to be in the land of airy fairy, positive, everything's perfect. But when you go into a support group and you feel, just like dragged down or like you need to take a shower afterwards, that's a red flag right there. And I can imagine that there can be some bias against surgery and people with strong opinions, one way or the other. There's going to be bias in different groups. And so I just want to give people the reminder to listen to their body and how your body feels after you find yourself in a support group or an online forum or whatever it may be. Even if it's meant to be supportive, if you feel yucky afterwards, get out of there. It's not a safe space because your body will respond. Just like you said, your pelvic floor is a first responder. Your pelvic floor is like the canary in the coal mine that says, something's wrong in here. There's something wrong in my environment that's making me feel stressed in my body. And your pelvic floor muscles respond really quickly to anxiety, fear, uncertainty, threat. And so, yeah, listen to your pelvic floor, listen to your vagina. Your vagina tells the truth.
Yeah. Exactly.
So yeah, I just wanted to highlight those points that you made. So you said that you got reassured, you got that reassurance, you started to trust the surgery, you trusted the surgeon, you let yourself heal, even though it took way longer than you thought it would. And where are you today?
I'm in a good place today. I would have to say some of the other emails I got from people were really positive after that interview. There was a few people actually that got in touch and said, or actually in the comments on YouTube as well, and said, hey, I had this and I know what it was like. I think I was like 6 weeks post. I can't remember what I was, maybe 3 months post surgery when we talked. But people said, I remember what it was like that early on. It's still early days. You've still got plenty of healing to do. And you actually said that to me in the interview too. And
Yeah.
so it was really nice that people said, just back up the bus, give yourself more time. And so that's the upside of community, right? Is that it can be very,
Yes.
encouraging and
Yes.
reassuring as well. So yeah, there's both sides to that equation. But where I am today is good. Like, for example, I there's still some things I can't do, but that's actually a lot more because of the neuralgia, not so much the prolapses. Um, I can't ride a bike. I haven't been skiing. I'm not sure how that would be, but I'd be really scared of falling with skiing, which I do, and then hitting, landing on my butt and making that nerve even more upset, because it's the nerve, one of the nerves that goes right through the pelvis that's involved in my neuralgia. But where I am today, otherwise, is really good. Like last night, I went to a dance class. I used to be really into dancing. I used to do performance stuff with I wasn't a great dancer, but I loved the adult dance classes that I went to, doing hip hop and fusion and things like that. And I've just started going back. So this is my first term back. Last night I went for the third time. It's not making anything worse. In fact, I feel I don't do everything that the teacher has the class doing. And I've said to her at the start, she knows me really well, and I've said to her at the start, there's certain things I won't do, or I'm just going to adapt. I'm pretty sure I'm the oldest person in the class by quite a long way. I'm 52. And so other people's bodies are really different to mine as well. And my body was different 10 or 20 years ago too. But I'm really enjoying being back. And that's a huge thing, because I was away for almost 4 years, like 3.5 years at least. I do dancing at home to people that I like on YouTube. That's how I got back into it. I thought I better see how long I can do this for at home first, like just building up 5 minutes, which was excruciatingly tiny, and
Yeah.
then do 2 tracks rather than one, and then three, and just sort of build it up to the point where I could do 45 minutes. So I was getting fitter again as well. And then I was like, right, well, I'm ready to go back to class. So I kind of got myself there over the last 6 months, and that's really exciting. And I can't say that this is going to work for everybody, but the other thing that has really, really helped me is that I wrote and performed my own solo comedy show about
Yes.
pelvic floor stuff. Yeah.
I'm
And
so excited for you to share about this because this is just incredible. Obviously, I love that you're back to dancing. Dance is a huge part of my life too. But
mm,
the comedy show is it's so powerful. It's such a power move for you to take, you were already a comedian, so this wasn't like a brand new thing for you, but to take this difficult challenge in your life and to turn it into something that could inform and educate people and
mhm.
also bring a little bit of lightness to a really heavy topic. So
Yeah.
I'm so proud of you for doing this, and please tell us more.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, it's been so amazing for me personally, but it's been really amazing in terms of the response I've had from people. So, yeah, I've been a comedian for about 5 or 6 years, just doing open mics and a few lineup shows and stuff. And then last year, a group of us started traveling together throughout the lower part of New Zealand, and that's sort of stretched us all, I think, in really good ways and given us more confidence. And I've started headlining, which is where you're at the end of the show, you're kind of the main event, and emceeing, which is where you're the person hosting the whole thing. Um, and I've always done a lot of conference speaking and public speaking, so being in front of people isn't uncomfortable. In fact, I kind of love it, to be honest. Um, and but I thought, well, okay, the next step for me, comedy wise, if I want to keep going with this, is to go bigger, because I was just sort of cruising along doing the same material, which worked fine, but I was getting a bit bored, and I thought, okay, well, I really need to shake it up and put more into it. And what is the most interesting thing that I could think of to talk about? Like there's so many topics that you can do, but they've been done 1,000 times before, which is okay. You still put your own slant on it, but nobody talks about this stuff. Like even just, I mean, maybe friend to friend, yes. And now obviously there's more people sort of starting to talk about it in groups, etc. But still, it's pretty taboo. There's a lot of people that still are very uncomfortable talking about anything to do with intimate health. And I thought, well, how do you make something less taboo, and how do you make it accessible for people to learn in a fun way? I'll do a comedy show about it. Like I'll just make it my show. And it's not my show is not just about that. It's about a few other things too. It's called Space Invaders. And it's I've performed it. I've only performed it 3 times, but I've been working on it for all of this year. And I've when I performed it recently at Dunedin Fringe Festival, Dunedin's where I live in New Zealand, I won an award. So I get to take it to Auckland Fringe Festival in September, which is much bigger. And that's really cool. And so, and I want to travel it around New Zealand. I've already got people emailing me from all different places saying, when are you going to bring your show to Wellington or Christchurch? Or yeah, so and people are hearing about it partly because I got some media attention. It got picked up by a newspaper. In fact, I had a week that was just absolutely bananas. It was what I considered Nicola talks about her pelvic issues in public week. So on the Monday, I was in a newspaper, a big newspaper, about my show. On the Tuesday, I performed my own show at Fringe Festival and was interviewed by another newspaper on that day as well. Wednesday, performed my show again. Thursday, I thought it was like a rest day and I was going to have a day off, but no, there was an article in another newspaper I didn't know was even covering it the next day. Friday was a rest day. I did nothing that day. Got to have a day off from these official duties. And then Saturday, I performed, like I was on at a conference. Like it just went on and on. It was like an entire week of stuff. It was incredible. Yeah, I was speaking at a conference about pelvic pain. And I was like, this is bananas. But I guess because a lot of other people aren't talking about it, when somebody does, it's really great that the media is, jumping and wanting to get on that too, because that's what we need is more people to just be more matter of fact and upfront and stuff. And what I do in my show is I make it funny, but it's mostly at my expense. It is a little bit at health professionals' expense, I have to say, because I have been I did a PhD, which is in medical communication. And so what the health professionals who've seen me probably don't realize is that if something funny or strange happens in a consult, which it often does when you're dealing with these kind of issues, and I've seen so many people now, I keep notes. Like I just keep notes just for my own comedy. I'm not going to like sue them or anything. I'm just like keeping notes on the funny things that happened. And I've only included a few of those in my show, and most of them are at my own expense. But also, when the show got reviewed, which it's been reviewed a few times now, one of the comments that a reviewer made that I really loved was that, firstly, that I make it very comfortable for everybody because I'm so comfortable talking about potentially embarrassing things or very, very personal things. And I do that right from the start about other issues in my show, not the pelvic stuff, but I start off with other things that are maybe a bit more kind of commonly relatable. And then she also said, and she manages to make all of the reviewers, actually, all 3 have said, I've never heard of pelvic organ prolapse before, and I learned a lot. But the first reviewer said she managed to make this content incredibly funny without in any way trivializing the experiences of people who go through it, which is exactly what I wanted to do. Like I did not want it to make, I didn't, like I've seen people make what I find really offensive jokes about older women and incontinence and stuff like that. And there's no way I was going to do that. Like it's not about making fun of what it's like to have this. It's about using humor to educate people and also as a coping strategy for me to see the funny side of things that are actually genuinely really hard to go through sometimes.
Yeah.
And so it feels really, it's lovely that you call it a power move. Thank you. Because it actually feels very empowering.
Yeah.
And the month or so that I was like writing the content really intensively and starting to rehearse it, and I practiced it in front of 3 people, like just in a living room. One of them I didn't even really know, and they came along and they gave me some really early preliminary feedback on it. I suddenly realized that the pelvic pain, the neuralgia, was actually feeling a lot better. And I was like, that's so interesting because, objectively, this is quite a stressful and feels like a very pressurizing thing to be doing. Yeah. And yet that's usually when the neuralgia gets worse, but I'm feeling better. And so in the time that I prepared and then performed the show, the neuralgia was considerably better than usual. It's kind of bounced back to where it often is now. But It's like, that's interesting. It must be so cathartic to be doing something creative with all of this,
Well, I
directly giving it an outlet.
absolutely, yeah, I think cathartic is such a great word there because it's like there's so much anxiety and self pressure to get better. And, self pressure is the word that I've felt myself when I have my own health issues. And I know a lot of people have expressed that to me. It's this constant pressure of like, oh, I'm not getting better, or when's this going to get better, or why is it not getting better? It's pressure. And
Yeah.
it's like we need to release some of that pressure so that it is cathartic for you to write this and express it. It's gorgeous that you were able to do that. And also, I just want to bring in a little bit the power of pleasure. Like you're laughing, you're enjoying yourself in the
Mm,
process.
mm,
And I think we underestimate the power of pleasure in healing work. It doesn't all need to be work, hard work. Pleasure is so
mm.
powerful. This light work, this happy work is is a pain reliever. So,
Yeah, very true. That's very
mhm.
true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's, as you say that, I'm realizing that's exactly what it felt like. And that was a shared experience. Like each night that I did the show, it blew my mind to see all these people.
Yeah.
Like when I'm hiding somewhere backstage and you can kind of see people, I sort of expect them to trickle in, but like there's this big gush of people coming in, and then they're all sitting there all excited. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing that these people have come here to see me talk about this. Some of them maybe didn't know exactly what it was about, but some would have by the time it was reviewed. If they'd read the reviews, they'd know what it was about. And it was just such a great thing to share that enjoyment of it too. One night, I kind of wasn't sure whether to ask my son to come along, who's 16, and because it's pretty, there's quite a bit of anatomy in it. Like there's some stars of the show that I wasn't expecting. Like I've got these crocheted organs. So I've got a uterus and a bladder and a bowel, and I've also got, this is the one that really gets people going, so to speak. I've got this beautiful clitoris
Who
crochet.
crocheted this clitoris? I
I
need this. I need
Oh,
this
well,
clitoris.
I employed somebody. You wouldn't believe how many people employ this kind of, well, sorry, crochet stuff for a living or on the side of other things. So I found a local woman and I found her in a Facebook group. We didn't know each other. And I said, is there anybody who could crochet some small items for me? I got about 30 responses, and most of them said, oh, what is it you want? They probably thought I wanted like cupcakes or flowers or little tiny pandas or something. And I'm like, I'm not going to say publicly what it is. And then I just went with the first woman who answered me. I thought I'll just hit the top person on the list. So I messaged her and she said, yeah, tell me what it is you want. And I said, well, this is, you just hear me out. What I want is pelvic organs, and this is wine. And then I'm like waiting for a response. I could see she's online at the same time. And she goes, I love this. I'm a paramedic. I've delivered hundreds of babies and in Africa and other parts of the world. And yeah, I'm in. And she's just been so amazing. In fact, the messaging between us could be a comedy show in itself because the clitoris went missing for a while. And if that isn't a metaphor for anything, I don't know what is. But like I had to go to her house. She wasn't there. Her son's looking around the house. She's trying to direct him by phone to where the clitoris is, without either of us wanting to say to this young adult man, it's a clitoris. Like he's like, what am I looking for? I don't know what I'm looking for. And I'm like, oh, this is just priceless because welcome to life. Like yeah, nobody knows where it is. Like I can't tell you what it looks like. I don't. And she's messaging him too, and she's going, it should be under the cushion or between the two cushions, or maybe it was the craziest situation. I'm like, oh my God, this is somehow got to become, it's not in the show yet, but I think it will
Oh,
become
I
part
think
of
that needs to go in the show. That's good.
this poor guy. But anyway, so yeah, I found this woman and she came to the show one night and then she messaged me afterwards and she goes, right, okay, next thing I'm making you is a vulva because we found a crochet pattern. They're all on Etsy, all these patterns. We found a crochet pattern for a vulva. And so I could actually have the organs, like it would be, I don't know, they're all different sizes and they're completely out of proportion to each other and stuff. But yeah, she's fully into it. But what I was going to say before I distracted myself is that I didn't know whether to bring my son along to the show. But he really wanted to see it. So he comes along on the opening night at Dunedin Fringe, and one of his friends was there too. So they sat in the front row together. And I'm like, oh, what's this going to be like for teenage boys, you know? They were so into it. Like, they were so into it. In fact, his friend, when I said at the start, is anybody who's been to live comedy before, who hasn't been? He was the one person that said he hadn't been, his friend. And then he actually really got into participating in the show, not in an overwhelming way, but just a little, you could tell he was really into it. And afterwards, he messaged me and said how much he enjoyed his first comedy show and he loved what it was about. And then a few weeks later, I was giving the speech at their school for a school, a huge ceremony that they have every year. They asked me to be the speaker, and one of the speakers, my son, did it too. And this kid said to his mum on that morning, "Oh, I'm so looking forward to next speech. I really hope she manages to mention the pelvic floor." Like,
Oh,
which I didn't. I was speaking about like war because it was an Anzac Day ceremony, so I wasn't really going to bring in the pelvic floor. But yeah, it was so funny that he's like still thinking about it, and he thought it
yeah,
was great, and
yeah.
I was like, oh, that's if you can get 16-year-old boys on board with this stuff, then that is really something.
Oh my gosh. I love that. You are breaking barriers right and left. I think this is
Yeah.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. Well, I want to wrap this up with just maybe anything else you want to share, but specifically perhaps you might have some words of advice for somebody who might be having just gone through surgery recently, or maybe they're considering surgery. They're at that point where they're like, I really think I need this. Do you have anything you'd want
Mhm.
to share with anybody from your hard-earned experience?
I'm just going to look at my little notes I've got here. I think that, I mean, the preparation, if you're thinking about surgery, obviously the preparation is key, and you want to know that you've tried other less invasive procedure or forms of treatment first. Part of my show is actually about how I really am quite angry about. So there's part of the show that's not funny, and it's about how much people with vaginas have not been well served by medicine. And in fact, that is the point of the show. There's so much that we don't know about what can help with this, with prolapse in particular. Pudendal neuralgia, people know even less, it seems. I mean, it's even relatively recently, people have started talking about, endometriosis much more openly, and menopause and perimenopause. And there's just so much to do with women's health that we're not
Yeah.
nowhere near. We don't have anywhere near enough research and communication about, and health professionals need to be better informed about these things too. And so we do, those of us who can advocate, I think it's really important that we do bring this message out into the public in the ways that we can, because that's the only way people realize what they don't know
Yeah.
and realize what the needs are that are still there. So I'm very aware that the surgery that I got probably does have limits to it, and so I went into it with that in mind. I wasn't thinking this is going to be perfection. This is going to be a complete 100% fix. Um, my body now is very different to what it was, years ago, and that's how bodies are. We
Yeah.
change all the time.
Yeah.
But it's about how best to learn to live in the body that you have now. And if that involves surgery, to really do your research on how well equipped this person is to
Mhm.
help you. I mean, I saw multiple surgeons, as I said. There were actually two who offered to do surgery on me, and it was a big decision to decide which one to go with. One seemed a lot less confident, which is fair. It's good that they're honest as well. Um, and so really do your research and do all the prehab that you can. And if you're in the aftermath of it, it's such a cliche, but just to allow it to take a lot of time, because well, especially for me going through it at 50, it was just an enormous amount for my body to go through in all kinds of ways.
Mhm.
And that's not, you don't just bounce back from that really quickly. So you do have to go really slowly and gently. And I built up to exercise again so slowly afterwards. It was like painful for me, but like emotionally painful for me because I love moving in so many different ways. But also, I guess the thing that I've learned is to not keep doubting yourself, because we make the best decisions we can with what we have available to us at the time. And yeah, to kind of realize that you, as you said before, your body is giving you a lot of information, which we may or may not be tuning into. And that's much more useful and powerful than some of the noise that comes towards us
Right.
online. So I love what that pelvic floor physio said to me. And actually the surgeon said to me too, pretty much the same words, just get on and live your life. Like, get on with it.
Yeah.
Just don't spend so much time thinking about this. There's so much other stuff that's better use of your time and energy.
Yes, yes, yes. You are speaking my language. I love this. Thank you for saying that so clearly and from the voice of experience of someone who's just been through, this really big thing in your life. I mean, this is years that you've been dealing with the issue and then deciding on the surgery and now recovering from the surgery. And it just seems like you've just blossomed in so many ways. So I think this is a really powerful success story when we see so many stories that, I don't know, maybe portraying something different. I think it's really powerful to portray everything. Yes, there can be some failures. Surgery can fail, and there can be successes. And some
Mm,
people can recover quickly, and some people it can take a long, long time, a lot longer than they thought it would. I
mm,
mean, there's just all possibilities are out there. And thank you for showing us this possibility. I mean, you're out performing on stage, sharing with the world your experience, which is your dharma. Like, this is your thing. This is your calling. It's not everybody's, but you're doing
mm.
such an amazing thing right now. So, um, if there's anything else, please share. But definitely, I want you to say maybe how people could contact you or find out more about what you're up to.
When I've performed the show a few more times, we'll get it videoed. With comedy, everything evolves quite a lot as you perform it because the audience brings so much in each time. And, people add their own, come and talk to you afterwards and they give you something that's actually a gem and it ends up going in there. So the show is certainly not fully formed yet, but when it is, I'll get it recorded and then I'll be able to make it available to people online. So when we do that, if you could put the link
Yeah,
below in
I will.
YouTube, that would be great.
Mhm.
I do have a website which people can contact me through, although I may have answered a lot of the questions now, which is hopefully because I don't mind people contacting me, but sometimes they had a lot of people are contacting me with the same questions at the same time, which they couldn't possibly know. But I think this maybe is something that people have been kind of waiting to know is how am I going? But my website is www.nicolabrown.co, and you can put that link below as well. And it's 5 years out of date because I haven't been spending any time on it. So there's absolutely nothing on there that relates to anything we've talked about, but that's fine. They can still
Fair.
contact me through it. I'd much rather be doing other things than updating my website, which is really clear every time I look at it and think, wow, it's out of date.
You're a living example of doing what you love.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, almost the last 5 years now have been very much dominated by all of this health stuff. So that's out of necessity had to take priority.
Yeah.
And that's what you do too, right? You shift where
Yeah.
your attention goes because where it needs to be. But hopefully that's tracking you in a good direction.
Right.
Yeah. And if it's not, then find another way. There
Yeah.
are loads of different ways we can approach these problems. There's no
Right.
one recipe for everybody.
Right. Absolutely. Wow. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us again and sharing your update. This is really, really special. And I'm so glad to have had you back for part two. And everybody who's watching and interested, check out Nicola's website. Even if it's not updated, it's still got great stuff on it. And she's somebody to follow and keep up with. So thank you, Nicola.
Oh, sorry, I meant to say, sorry to interrupt you. They can
Yeah.
follow me on social media as well, on
Yeah.
Facebook and Instagram. It's Nicola Brown, just ITS Nicola Brown.
I'll put all of the links in the description for this video. So just expand the video description and I'll put everything in there. And then when Nicola has an update for me, like when her show is on video, I will be sure to put that link in there as well. So far into the future, everything will remain updated. At least I'll try.
Cool. Yeah.
So, all right. Thank
Lovely.
you again so much.
Thank you. Thanks for
Okay.
inviting me to talk again. Thanks, Bree.
Bye.
Bye.